Okay, it's your buddy, it's your pal, it's your friend, Mike Messier. I was just in one of these various online groups, to give it credit, the Wrestling Matters to Us group, very nice group. And some fellow was kind of giving his raw analysis, his opinions on Raw, his thoughts, and one of the things I guess this guy said was Raw pretty much sucked, but it had a couple of good matches. And someone said, well, how can it suck if it had a couple of good matches? A dramatic sip pause. And the first gentleman said, well, it did suck, but it did have a few good matches. And then the second guy said, well, that doesn't make any sense. And they went on and on and on. So I want to basically make a statement that today's wrestling fan watches wrestling in a different way than yesteryear's wrestling fan. And how so is this? This is so because today's wrestling fan watches wrestling in the sense that they want to be Vince McMahon, or they want to be Triple H with NXT, or they want to be whoever the fuck's running these other promotions that they watch. Today's wrestling fan kind of goes to that video game mentality. You don't actually want to be an athlete. You just want to be the person controlling the clicker, the remote. It's fantasy league football. It's rotisserie baseball. It's people no longer want to be the player. They want to be the puppet master, which is fine. Maybe that's, I hate the term evolution, quote, and not in the Triple H, Randy Orton, Batista, Ric Flair way, but an evolution of people no longer want to be the starting pitcher. They want to own the baseball team. And in wrestling's case, never so more evident that fans, they don't want to cheer for their favorite wrestler. They don't, for smaller and smaller populace, it seems, actually wants to be in the ring, be a wrestler themselves, or be a manager, or a ring announcer, things that I've done on a very small level, comparatively to these major pro wrestlers. But the point, once again, is I'm not saying it's better or worse. Maybe it's worse. Maybe it's better. But fans no longer see themselves as they want to be Ric Flair, or they want to be Chris Jericho, or they want to be Hulk Hogan. And 20, 30 years ago, I think fans did. They actually did think that if they fucking trained and lifted weights and fucking drank milk, they could be a pro wrestler. Or at least in some aspect of their noggin, they thought that. Now that's not even part of it. Now fans just want to analyze and critique, and I'm not saying it's better for worse, but now every fan, their dream is to be running the show. If I was the booker, and hey, look, no one's lived this more than me, okay? I mean, I went to the extent of having a few pro wrestling matches and realizing that I wasn't getting trained and I wasn't really getting paid for the most part, and I was probably going to get hurt because I was wrestling guys like myself that weren't trained properly. We knew what we were doing in a sense. We were having fun, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I'm going to get my fucking neck broke because I wasn't in the ring with guys that were trained, and I wasn't trained myself. And it wasn't derogatory towards us. It was just knowing that this was a risky business, in a Dusty Rhodes, Ronnie Garvin sense. So the point of the matter is this. If I'm making the point articulately or not, I don't know. But the point is, today's fan doesn't see him or herself as a fan who would like to be a wrestler. They see themselves as someone who would like to run the show. That's why you have a million fucking fans commentating, Raw was good this week, but the matches sucked. Or Raw sucked this week, but the matches were good. Well, how can you say that? Everyone, and look, I mean, I watch these, What Cultures and these Simons and the slapping on the hands and all these other guys. And I will say this, I watch more analysis of pro wrestling and of sports in general than I actually watch pro wrestling and sports now. As sick as that sounds, I'm more apt to enjoy listening to Stephen A. Smith and Max and the very pretty woman on that show, the broadcaster lady, do their thing. Or I'm more likely to listen to Bruce and Conrad or whatever the fuck, Jim Cornette, than I am to actually sit there and watch a 2.5 hour wrestling show. So maybe that's on me, but I would say also this whole thing that I'm talking about, wrestling fans thinking they're the promoter or wanting to be the promoter and not the wrestler, that's another knock against today's WWE in particular, but the wrestling landscape in general. There's this whole other thing going on. And I was listening to some cornet, like I always do, about hand grenade spots and just silly shit. And, he definitely has a fucking thing against Kenny Omega and wrestling dolls in Japan and so forth. That I'll get into another time. But I just want to make a commentary. It's not a judgment. It's not a diss on anyone. In fact, I enjoy reading people's analyses of what they've been watching, because it shows they're putting some thought into it, maybe more thought than what's gone into it. And look, I did have a job interview with WWE, and I don't talk about it much, but it did happen for the creative writing team. It was a very interesting situation, but not a good one, obviously. So, blah, blah, blah. But I just want to make that commentary. I was so inspired. It was on my heart, so to speak, to do this little video for you. Happy holidays. It's raining here in New England. I'm outside the YMCA about to lift some weights of some nature. I would encourage wrestling fans who do watch wrestling, don't forget that you have to work on your own self too. We can all support Paige. We can all support all these wrestlers and whatever the hell they're going through or their trials and tribulations. But at the end of the day, you have a life to live. You have a body to take care of, a mind. Read a book. Drink some water. Go to your local gymnasium. Okay, I'll talk to you later. And, to those gentlemen who are having their debate, please don't kill each other about it. But enjoy the debate. It's a good one.